Friday, May 2nd edition of the Carolina Weather Video. Meteorologist Matthew East here. And the weather on the Once Forecast Center. And yesterday wound up being a pretty warm afternoon for much of the region, up to 80 yesterday in Greensboro, 86 in Wilmington, 77 the high in Fayetteville. Charlotte hit 78, so did Columbia. Now temperatures cooler by a pretty good margin in many spots, especially across the Piedmont, compared to what we had during the 5 o'clock hour back on Thursday morning. So a pretty decent temperature change, 10 to 20 degrees cooler in many spots. It's 48, in fact, in Charlotte, 54 in Greensboro and Raleigh, 46 in Boone, 55 down in Columbia. Cold front has moved off to the south and east of us and now stalled out for the northern Gulf across northern Florida and then off of the Carolina coast. And along that, you have some various areas of rain and thunderstorm activity. Now, you notice this batch of rain that's been developing here through Georgia and Alabama into Florida. That's lifting to the northeast. More on that here in just a second. The radar pretty quiet overall across our region this morning. The satellite has seen some clouds, or has shown some clouds rolling back in rather through the night. And again, some thunderstorms offshore. But of note is this little batch of rain that's in Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. And that's going to head up through the eastern part of the Carolinas as we go through the course of today. So here's the overall setup showing you that a little disturbance riding along that front, bringing coastal parts of the Carolinas at least a little bit of light rain as today unfolds. But then that gets out of the way in time for some great weekend weather. Dry air takes hold. There'll be no weather problems at all through the weekend here all across the region. So if you happen to be planning a trip to the beach areas, there's the North Carolina beach forecast. And this is pretty much the same anywhere from the Wilmington area on up through the Outer Banks. A little bit of rain today. But then the Saturday and Sunday time period looks very, very nice. If you want to head to the mountains, same deal, looks great, except no rain chance throughout the next 3 days, and just a lot of sunshine over the weekend, getting warmer and warmer as we get deeper into the weekend as well. Speaking of warmer, watch what happens with our upper level pattern. We start off the week with a bit of a northwest flow aloft. I'll show you more on that in just a second. But as the week builds, unfolds, high pressure and ridging aloft builds overhead. And that's going to really crank our temperatures. In fact, check out the European temperatures by the time we get to Friday. Lots of 80s all across the region, and I think there's going to be a lot of 80s even before that. Probably we're looking at mostly 80s for highs Sunday onward next week. Maybe one day with a little bit of a cooler setup, some 70s for Wednesday, but outside of that, a lot of warming. Pretty quiet weather next week. All right, so here's a look at the detailed upper air charts. That's a look at the European model for today. And this last little piece of energy moving through, that's kind of what's aiding in that development of that light rain chance through the eastern Carolinas for this Friday. But notice the ridging. This is out to Wednesday of next week. That ridging aloft, building overhead. And that's going to bring some warm and pretty quiet weather next week. Now, we start off with that northwesterly flow aloft around Monday and Tuesday. That will allow a front to drop into northeastern North Carolina. And that's the kind of setup where you have to watch out for these little complexes of storms to fire in the northern plains and then ride southeast down into the region. So I think northeastern North Carolina certainly has the opportunity of a few showers or storms Monday and Tuesday of next week. How far south and west from northeastern North Carolina that makes it remains to be seen. For the time being, I've gone with the dry scenario for the Charlotte and Triad areas, but again, we'll have to see exactly where that frontal boundary sets up. And then you notice later on in the week, this is on the European model, what it looks like for Friday. And let's compare that to the GFS. Very similar with that southwesterly flow, but boy, the GFS just cranks that warm air all the way up through the northeastern part of the country as you get toward late week next week. And then you're looking at the rain chances on the GFS returning for the following weekend. But that's a long way off. We'll see how that plays out. Very quickly, this is the GFS representation of this afternoon. You can see that light rain moving up through the eastern part of the Carolinas. The NAM model is not nearly as aggressive with bringing that rain in. But I think at least for the coastal parts of the Carolinas, there will be that chance of just a little bit of rain today before the weekend sets up very nicely. All right, that is it for today's edition of the Carolina Weather Video. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend, and God bless.